Other reasons why I oppose the budget was because it's 25% more money was spent than the last legislature. Now, we did that in a sneaky way again. We first of all filled the holes from the last legislative session. So we were still finishing up the current biennium. So we put as much money in the current biennium as basically we could. And some of that we had to do because we played some monkey business with the county. We only budgeted for 18 months of Medicaid, and we sped up taxes and deferred payments and those kind of things. So I supported that portion of backfilling our problems from the last session, but I opposed the rest of the budget process. We had about a $20.8 billion increase in funds, and we basically spent it all. And so, but what was interesting is we had, for the first time in 30 years, 30 people in the Republican Party opposed that budget, opposed their own party's budget. It shows you that the leadership in many ways is out of touch with at least most of the recently elected freshmen. And there was only one Democrat that voted against the budget. So that can kind of tell you things right there. So, but I was grateful to try to identify the problems in the budget and at least have that many join me in opposing it. One of the other reasons why I oppose the budget, you've probably heard about this, but it's because of the dedicated funds problem. You remember we fought a war for independence because, for a large part, because of taxation without representation. What we're doing in Texas, what I believe, is even worse. We are taxing with misrepresentation. We're telling you, for instance, with your $30 million of fees on insurance premiums for homes, ranches, equipment, to help train volunteer firemen, and to give them equipment, especially in rural areas. Idea being, if we have volunteers that are ready to fight the fires and put them out, we'll save money on premiums. We're taking $30 million of those fees and we're putting them in the general fund, dedicating it. But then we're only appropriating in the last 4 years $13.5 per year of that $30 million. The rest of that money is going to fund other parts of the budget that don't have funding. Now, how can we do that? Well, we passed a little bill that I call the Wizard of Oz bill. You have to look behind the curtain. You got to have Toto come up there and pull the curtain aside to see what's happening and who's pulling the leverage. The fact is that we passed a bill this year. It's HB 6 that undedicates all the dedicated funds, except for those that are constitutionally dedicated. So the day before we passed that bill, we passed the Glenda Dawson bill. And that sets up a registry for organ donations to track human organs so that we can get, when you die or I die, we can get them to people that can use them. It's a dedicated account. Well, the next day, we undedicated that account, along with a whole bunch of others. And it's not just $30 million a year. It's been as much as $5 billion each biennium, or $2.5 billion per year of taxation with misrepresentation. Now, the leadership thankfully acknowledged the problem, but they took credit for solving it and acknowledging it. We did very little to solve it. I do think I have the support of the legislature now, at least to give the volunteer firemen the funds that we've collected for them, for their training, and for their equipment. So good news is we got more freedom fighters willing to support liberty and limited government. And the biggest vote there showing that decision to not support growth in government with 30 no votes on the budget. We did do some other things right. Matt Schaefer led the effort in, I believe, pointing the right direction in higher education. And we funded a we authorized a pharmacy school at UT Tyler that's going to be privately funded. And that's been done in a school south of Austin and one in Tennessee. I think that's the direction we need in higher education, is more competition, and set them free. Let them operate on a free market. The reason why we have high tuition is because we have lots of federal and state money that's propping up all these student loans. And there are people coming out of schools with $60,000, $100,000 worth of debt. What's that funding? It's funding a lot of brick and mortar around the state in higher ed. Why don't we let them compete and let the dollars go to who does the best job? Anyway, Matt Schaefer filed the bill and did a great job in promoting it, and Senator Eltife also filed it, and also Representative Carding ended up carrying it, the one that passed. But Matt Schaefer did the yeoman's work in the House in promoting it. Another, remember something positive else that we did here. Well, let's move on to the special session. The first special session, yes.
Passed the one on the gold and silver.
Thank you. I just overlooked what I filed. Thank you. I did have some modest success. The bill that basically removed the sales tax for gold and silver purchases under $1,000 was passed nearly unanimously by both houses and signed by the governor and went in effect on the 1st. And so basically, now gold and silver coins, and even platinum and some others can do what they're supposed to do according to the Constitution, and be honest money. And so at least we can fight debasement of the currency. I'd like to do it for my children's birthdays, but I was prohibited from doing it unless they bought $1,000 more at a time, and that's just tough to do. But I think I'm going to go to some of these dealers and say, look, save me $4 a month of silver dollars, and start setting it aside. The other bill that I passed that was statewide was a bill that gave a little more freedom to farmers markets and clarified some of the regulations for those venues. It didn't really what's going on here that I know of, but some places in the state they were trying to apply laws for restaurants having 3 sinks to farmers markets. And they were requiring them to throw out their dirty water in a sewer. I mean, some of these are in a pasture on the side of an intersection, and it just didn't make sense. It wasn't a perfect bill, but it was a step in the direction of freedom and responsibility. And then we did pass several local bills, and that was something. Y'all may not know, but if you pass a local bill and stand on your principles and oppose people, that's pretty significant, because it just takes one person to kill a local bill. And that was by the grace of God and the support of the legislature was able to pass 4. One was a juvenile board bill for Upshur County, where Commissioner Cole Hefner serves. The Judge Parrish had requested it, and the commissioner supported it. And then there were several bills with respect to designating highways, and also designating Gregg County as the balloon race capital of Texas. Now I have to emphasize that it's important because Plano is the hot air balloon capital of Texas. So I told them they're about hot air, we're about a big race. But we got that passed. So, not hugely important legislation, but I do think it's indicative that you can do the right thing in the right way and not only get reelected, but gain the support of your colleagues. And I didn't sit down and shut up this last session. I did oppose bad legislation. In fact, on the last day when most people were celebrating, my staff and I were reading bills. We were reading corrections to bills. Here's, typos, adding ESPN and what was the other one? Oh, it was a big corporate welfare thing, and that's supposed to be a joke. They had this corporate welfare bill, basically, that they were trying to slip in at the last moment as an error of correction, and thankfully my staff and I caught it. And that was the only point of order I think I got sustained. I had 20 people at the mic trying to keep me from supporting this point of order because it was affecting their districts. And people, one of the biggest lobbyists in the state, texted me and said, "Why are you against this?" And it was basically expanding corporate welfare, and it's the major offense fund. And I said, well, because it doesn't affect my district. You're taking our money and you're giving it to Fort Worth, you're giving it to Austin, you're building the Toyota Center, the manufacturing center, you're building the center for Apple, you're attracting the Super Bowl to Arlington, but you're taking little bits of mom and pop stores and services all around Texas that you will never account for, never see, because it never had the chance to happen. But all those little bits amounted to a great bit of corporate welfare in those bigger cities. And this little bill at the end of session just expanded it. And I thought it would get it through, but I was glad to oppose that. Most of the points of order, though, I did lose, especially on the budget. We have an egregious conference committee process. We have some good rules, but they don't follow. And it's not just the speaker. And I made the point to the body that you got to support this, and I was left alone. I was the only one to oppose the egregious violation of the committee conference process. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
They're a legislator in Washington, D.C., and they speed, they can't get a ticket. And it's just like y'all don't follow the rules up there. We are the only ones that have to follow the rules because y'all have the sword.
That's right.
And it's that remark that you made about that little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that little bit for that program, that little bit for that program, the little bit for that one, and then all the other little programs that we have to fund. Yeah, and then Washington takes their little bit for all their little wealth redistribution or their little charities that they want to fund. That just leaves us nothing. And then the local level, they do the same thing. They take that little bit, oh, well, we're only going to take just a little bit for education. We're just going to take a little bit for, this. And that little bit ends up to be thousands and millions of dollars that's on our backs. And I am just so tired of it because I can't even work anymore. Nobody give me a job here because I'm not somebody's pal or bud or giving them, thousands of dollars to fund their campaigns. It's just